How to Stay Invisible. Chapter 21. That Saturday, when Raymond woke up and packed his fishing gear, Rosie wagged her tail and whined with excitement. Raymond laughed. I know, he said, patting her head. I missed him too. Hank stood and stretched and wagged his tail with Rosie. When Raymond and Rosie began to walk toward the river, Hank tried to come also. Oh, said Raymond, feeling a pang of guilt. Sorry, Hank. You can't come, buddy. Hank's tail abruptly stopped wagging. Come on, don't be like that. Raymond patted his head. You can come another time, huh? Hank turned and jumped into the hollow. Raymond started to reprimand him, but then thought better of it. Besides, what was a little coyote hair? He needed to clean out the hollow anyway. Raymond gathered his minnows and dropped his gear off at their usual spot. Then, unable to sit and wait today, he walked through the woods to the road where Stiggs usually parked and found him getting out of his car. Aren't you a sight for sore eyes? Stiggs called. Nice to see you too, Raymond said. I was talking to Rosie, said Stiggs, and he bent to rub her ears. Raymond laughed and opened the trunk of Stiggs' car. Have you ever been night fishing? Raymond asked as they unloaded their gear at the river. Not in years, Stiggs said. Why? Have you been night fishing? Raymond smiled. I caught over a dozen fish this week, just upriver a bit, he said. I only kept about half of them, but I couldn't stop. It was the best I'd ever done. Must be spawning, Stiggs said. You were lucky to catch them at the right time. Here. He tossed Raymond a bucket. Raymond tried to catch it and fell forward into the mud, smearing his face, which made both of them laugh. Rosie jumped around them in happiness. At the river, the pair fished all morning. Raymond built a fire and they roasted the fish they caught over the flames. Raymond wanted to tell Stiggs about Harlan's dad, but it felt like a betrayal somehow, so he decided not to. Instead, he told Stiggs about Lexi and about Joseph Banker bothering him all the time. Around noon, Stiggs handed Raymond a can of soda from his cooler. Is this a girl that you're interested in? Asked Stiggs. No, said Raymond, feeling a little uncomfortable. It's not like that with Lexi and me. We're just friends. He and Lexi were just friends after all. She was nice to him, and Raymond couldn't say that about most of the students at River Mill. Then, without thinking, he added, there's a semi-formal dance next weekend. Stiggs was about to take a sip from his own soda, but stopped, leaving it suspended in midair. Oh yeah? You going? Raymond instantly regretted saying anything. Nah, he said, and took a long swig from the can so he wouldn't have to keep talking. Raymond could feel his ears reddening. I remember those school dances, said Stiggs. You can remember that long ago? Watch it, Stiggs said. His tone was serious, but he was grinning. They used to make us all go. It meant a night off for our guardians. Raymond nodded, taking another sip of his drink, and Stiggs fell silent, remembering. Then he said, I met my wife at a school dance when I was about your age. You met your wife when you were 12? Raymond asked, surprised. Stiggs had never mentioned anything about a wife, but Raymond knew she must have existed at some point. He tried to imagine a 12-year-old Stiggs asking a girl to dance, and the thought made him laugh out loud. Stiggs didn't seem to notice. She was the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Did you ask her to dance? Raymond asked. I did. Then what happened? Stiggs laughed. That, my boy, is none of your business. He took one last swig of his soda and then crushed the can with his hand. Why don't you want to go to this school dance anyway? Raymond shrugged. Nothing to wear, he answered honestly. Stiggs looked at Raymond. Then he began packing up his gear. Where are you going? It was only lunchtime, and they had plans to fish all day. Home. Get your stuff. You're coming too. Raymond moaned a little about missing a good day's fishing, but he had already caught and cleaned 2 fish for later, so he didn't argue. He and Rosie followed Stiggs through the woods to the car, and they drove to the cabin in silence. Raymond unloaded the gear and carried it in for Stiggs, setting it on the table. Back here, Stiggs said, leading Raymond down the hall to the bedroom. Stiggs opened his closet and Raymond's mouth fell open. On one side were women's clothes, dresses, flowered shirts, and even a Sunday hat. On the other side were men's clothes, but they were far too small and nice to belong to Stiggs. Stiggs cleared his throat. I haven't gotten around to... It's okay, said Raymond, sparing his friend from speaking the end of that sentence. Stiggs had clearly been keeping his wife's and son's clothes for some time now, and Raymond didn't need an explanation about why. What happened to her? He asked quietly. Stiggs sighed. Leukemia. Been about 20 years now. My son was just about your age when it happened. Raymond nodded, and Stiggs went silent for a moment, running his finger along the cuff of a dress. Anyway, he said, he was skinny like his mama. They might be a bit big for you, but I'm sure you can find something here to wear to that dance. Raymond nodded. He walked to the closet and thumbed through some of the shirts. He selected a blue button-down with small yellow stripes. He tried it on, and it almost fit. You could roll up the sleeves, Stiggs suggested. Raymond turned to thank him, but he was gone, leaving Raymond alone in the room. Raymond found a pair of dress pants that fit him, even without a belt. The shoes were all 2 sizes too big, but he didn't think it would matter if he wore his tennis shoes instead. He laid the clothes neatly across his arm and closed the closet door. Stiggs was poking the fire when Raymond came out of the bedroom. He glanced over his shoulder at Raymond. Good, you found something. Thank you, Raymond said, and he meant it. Do you think I could leave these here and come over next week to get them? The dance isn't until Friday night, and I don't want to mess them up before then. Sure, Stiggs said. Just throw them on your bed. Raymond went to the spare bedroom. Stiggs had said, your bed. He laid the clothes on the quilt and wished that he could find a reason to stay the night. Before Raymond could say anything else, Stiggs said, best be going now. Right, Raymond said. Okay, well, I'll see you next Friday. I'll come by after school. Stiggs grunted and continued poking the fire. Raymond thought Stiggs would offer him a ride, but the man was preoccupied with his own thoughts, so Raymond collected his things and called for Rosie to follow. The sun was setting by the time they made it back to camp. Hank was no longer lounging in the hollow and was nowhere in sight. Raymond sloppily made a fire, trying to beat the dusk. He was roasting a fish when Hank arrived, snapping a twig right behind Raymond. He jumped and dropped the fish into the fire. Rosie hadn't growled in warning like she usually did. Hank tilted his head as Raymond yelled, pulling the charred fish from the flames. Do you have to sneak up on me like that? Here, Raymond said, throwing him the ash-covered fish. Hank settled himself happily on the ground, cradling the fish between his paws and eating. Raymond rolled his eyes. I liked it better when you brought us dinner and not the other way around. Hank didn't appear to notice. Raymond roasted the other fish and he and Rosie shared it. Then he brushed his teeth and crawled into his sleeping bag. He lay there, trying to sleep, listening to Hank rustling around outside. He thought about the dance. Harlan would be happy that he was going, at least. He thought about the clothes in Stiggs's closet and the people who used to wear them. He wondered how long the old man had been all alone in the cabin. There are worse things than being alone, Raymond reminded himself. He thought sleepily that Stiggs really needed a dog and maybe a coyote.